What if Zacian Crown was in Gen 1 Ubers? Now, I did the base form Zacian a while ago. Despite only having normal moves, they did pretty well for themselves, even though they're a fighting type. And they're currently in Generation Jumble Season 2, and they're doing pretty good there as well. But holy crap, does Crown kind of fix, I think, literally all of its problems. And I do mean literally all of its problems. Like, for starters, with Zacian Crown, we automatically give it its signature move, which I believe you call it a Baphomet Bash, or something like that. And that is just a steel move, but the type of move doesn't really matter. Or okay, it kinda does for, like, Rhydon specifically. But for the most part, it doesn't matter what move it is. Just the fact that it's a normal move, or not a normal move, that you can actually use on Gengar. So you can actually hit Gengar now. And you can hit Rhydon as well. And having the steel type, which means you no longer suffer from any of the issues that the fighting type usually suffers from. You now only take Psychic and Drill Peck neutrally. And that's great, because you have 145 defense and special defense. Absolutely insane. Now, if I remember correctly, do you have less speed than regular ZAMAZENTA? I need to double check this. Yeah, you do. You're a little bit slower, but I do think the trade is more than worth it. Especially since with 128 speed, the only thing you're being outsped by is Jolteon and Mewtwo. Mewtwo, admittedly, it does kind of suck. It sucks for Jolteon too, since now Jolteon's a little bit better against you, since Zamazenta really hates paralysis. But for the most part, I think it's fine. 130 attacks also really good. And the fact that your signature not only is just a move that helps you against your main counters in the past, Gengar and Rhydon, but it's also just a base 100 move, period. Regular Zamazenta only had Hyper Beam and Slash for attacking moves, which don't really work very well together. Slash was always better, but now with a real move you can use, your crit rate actually matters. Sadly, again, not as high as Hero's base critical hit rate, but it's fine. You're just happy to have everything you can ever want. And this is an Uber's video. I do think he would be a little bit too strong for OU. There's definitely some ways to play around it, but I think it's mostly just really annoying. Especially with this how bulky, how fast, and how hard he hits. There's not too many ways to really get around it. But enough about that. Let's get on to the replays, shall we? Hopefully these can kind of prove my point. Starting off with the boy himself, Tauros. Didn't really bother going over the moveset as I usually do, because I think it's pretty straightforward. Reflect is just, it just makes you completely unkillable. One trade-off you do have to, deal with is the fact that you're now weak to Earthquake, but with Reflect is extremely manageable. And even Tauros here couldn't really do much against Zamazenta. And you have Rest, so you can heal off any crits you might get. Speaking of crits, Fire Blast with a crit would hurt a lot. It's the most dangerous thing you have to deal with Tauros. But again, really manageable. It's not that hard to rest off the damage. And for Fire Blast, you can very realistically stall it out. It only has 8 power points. And even then, you might not need to. You might just be able to just survive and take it out normally. And because of Slash always being a crit, you don't even care about a burn. Like, even with a Gengar and Rhydon. Well, for Rhydon, it's going to be super effective. So it's going to just hit like it's a neutral move. And with Gengar, it's still a move you can actually hit Gengar with. So you just don't really care. So overall, pretty good matchup for Tauros. Because even Tauros getting crits doesn't actually guarantee the victory for you. Now, I did not really bother with physical Snorlax. This is an Amnesia Wax set with Earthquake, but it doesn't even matter. Snorlax is not doing anything. It takes way too long for it to set up. Zacian can keep spamming Slash. And against any physical set, and I really do mean literally any physical set against Snorlax, Zacian just straight up wins. And if Zacian decides to use Light Screen over Reflect for some reason, Amnesia loses even harder, and even, like, with Earthquake, Zacian, I'd still put my money on Zacian having a fine enough time facing that. Chansey is funny, because you think with just Slash, it's pretty easy to beat it, you just use Counter. But it's not that simple, because its signature move is a Steel type, or Steel move I mean, and because of that, Counter will not work on it, because you can only use it on, like, they're fighting in normal moves. So just going for your signature, and then going for Slash is always a 2-hit KO. And with Slash, even Reflect doesn't matter. So there's not really many ways Chansey can deal with a Zacian. Zacian can always play around Counter. And you play around Counter, then suddenly things like Seismic Toss, Ice Beam aren't very good. It's just Thunder Wave exactly, which even then doesn't actually help Chansey win. And while Psychic is neutral, Zamazenta being so much faster, it just kind of bones Zam. And even once it gets the paralysis in, it is just not be able to recover off the damage in time. Also, I just want to apologize now if I keep saying Zacian. I think I've said it like once or twice during this video and haven't caught it. Apologizing in advance. It's Zamazenta. And by the way, I'm making this video because I got inspired by Freeze Eye's video with how good Zamazenta did there. Let me just quickly stop this thing. I'm really impressed that my boy managed to do something. I am actually really happy they finally gave him Body Press. But it also makes me really mad they didn't give it him in the first place. Now against Cloyster, this is a pretty interesting matchup, because you're only doing 25%, which is annoying for a Pokemon with Rest. But at the same time, Blizzard's not doing anything, you resist Ice, and Clamp is not doing anything either, really. So, most likely the best thing you can do is just keep going for Slash, and once they're out, it's like, they lost like 50% HP, trying to fish for a crit with your signature. But even then, like, you have Burst as well, so it's not like Cloyster can really stall you out. If anything, you can stall Cloyster out. So, I would call this could go either way, because neither one of them can finish the fight quickly, and with only 8 power points, you really don't want to waste those, especially since you need them for Rhydon and Gengar, as well as having a guaranteed KO on Jinx. Still though, most physical attackers do not have it this good as Zamazenta does. Alright, next off, we have Executor. This is one of the areas where only being neutral to Psychic really does hurt you. Executor is very bulky, can put you to sleep, and even if something else is already asleep, Psychic is a strong move against you. Even though you're not weak to it, Special Drops means you might as well be, and Executor has plenty of opportunities to go for that. So even with the Steel typing, it's still not a good matchup. But Gengar at the very least is a crit can just OHKO Gengar. So that alone something that Gengar has to consider and probably doesn't even want to risk going for Hypnosis. But outside of that, it's just a good move that hits hard. It really just depends on if Gengar gets the Hypnosis or not. This is a big improvement over the original matchup, that's for sure. And Jolteon, I think with Jolteon being faster, I think it doesn't matter if Jolteon dies or not. It's always going to be a really good trade-off. Because Zacian hates paralysis, because it really likes being faster than everything else. Everything else is a lot more likely to beat it if they're faster, and probably way more importantly, like you saw there, sometimes just losing a turn is so detrimental. And in Gen 1, it's especially detrimental for like passive-y Pokemon like Zamazenta here. And by that I mean Pokemon that need rest for the recovery. Because if Pokemon like Zamazenta loses a turn, that can be the difference between life and death. Because look at there, like, just one more turn would have killed it. Now imagine if instead of Jolteon, this is a Rhydon against a paralyzed Zamazenta. That could have gone really bad really quickly. And Jinx, you just have a guaranteed KO against. No matter what, this is completely winnable for you. There's no way you can lose this. So, let's just move on. Shall we? I think we shall. Now, right on. This is funny. Because obviously, if you get a crit, right on just an unwinnable matchup. So good for right on. He's so cool. Oh, wait, he doesn't always get crits, does he? Because we need to look at the actual matchup. And luckily with Reflect, it's nowhere near as bad as you might think. But 30% still a decent amount. Luckily your signature can two-shot him. But even then, you're taking a fair amount of damage. I'm gonna put this as a could go either way. But also, if you set up Reflect beforehand, it can just turn into a good matchup for ZAMAZENTA. But be wary of the extremely rare right on crit. Because when he crits, you're just screwed. Speaking of being screwed, what do you do against Slowbro? It is just way too tanky. It can paralyze you and always be the fastest thing around. ZAMAZENTA hates that as well. So no matter what, Slowbro can always safely set up. It can even get greedy too, like you see here. And there's, yeah, like, Light Screen doesn't really help that much either. I think it's still a two-shot either way, if I remember correctly. So Slowbro just has everything you can ever want to do here. If you keep ZAMAZENTA in, it's just complete setup fodder. But that's just kind of Slowbro's like gameplay in general. It's always just being taken out against whatever it knows it can set up against, whether it be Alakazam or something else. So this isn't really ZAMAZENTA's fault. It's just Slowbro being annoying as usual. So we don't blame my boy here. Not at all. Now, Starmie. I would say this is also a pretty bad matchup, but it's borderline could go either way. Slash is almost a two-shot, and I think technically Hyper Beam would be. Unfortunately, because your signature is Steel, you are resisted by Starmie because it's a water type. So Starmie can always paralyze you, can outlive you most likely with Recover, but then it just depends on what their moves are. If it's Blizzard and Thunderbolt, you're probably fine. If it's Surf, you're probably fine too, but that's uncommon. But Psychic can really mess you up, because just a few special drops, or even one, is more than enough to make sure Starmie always wins the long game. So maybe this should be good either way, now that I'm looking at it again. But I don't know. Do you think this is a good matchup or a bad matchup? Or not good, could go either way, or bad? I can't tell, because even with a situation like this, a worst case scenario, ZAMAZENTA got paralyzed, got special dropped, it's still making Starmie use a lot of their resources. So I don't know how to judge this. I really don't. This is where you guys can just comment. By the way, if you're enjoying the video, be sure to like the video and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Now on to the next one. I believe next we have Victory Bell. Still not used to including Victory Bell in videos, but it's kinda neat, I would say. But surprise, surprise, Victory Bell is not doing anything against ZAMAZENTA. I think technically, the most optimal thing is to go for Stun Spore, then Wrap. But I am not sitting here waiting for Victory Bell to kill ZAMAZENTA with Wrap. I am telling you that right now. I am not going to deal with that. And even then, it wouldn't even likely work. Sooner than later, ZAMAZENTA would probably just break 3. So no matter what, you just always beat Victory Bell 1v1. There's not much you can do. I'd argue in general there's not much Victory Bell can do. I don't care if it was the OU. I'll respect it by putting him in videos, but you better believe I'm still gonna make fun of him. Now Zapdos is could go either way, I would say. Slash is good damage, but getting paralyzed and dealing with a high special Pokemon with a high crit rate is really annoying. So, there's plenty of ways or scenarios where Zapdos can win, whether it be with crits or just full paralysis. Exhaustion for the most part still has a good chance of winning, but for most scenarios, it's gonna be left really low and paralyzed by the time it's done. So, yeah, it could go either way. There's not much to say there that I haven't said already. Last but not least, we got the two Mewbers. We got, first off, the OG Mew, and with Sword Stance and Earthquake, Mew could be a threat. But it also needs to set up a lot in order for ZAMAZENTA to really be worried. But with ZAMAZENTA having a good crit rate, that's also important. That's really good. Mew also has a good crit rate though. That's dangerous. So like, I don't know, like I think this is probably a good go either way. Maybe I need to make 1 or 2 more replays, but it seems like in general, both can set up and hit each other pretty hard. Mew has more consistent recovery, the ZAMAZENTA is faster, and it can hit a lot quicker. Because Mew can't just go for Earthquake without any boost, because then ZAMAZENTA goes for Reflect. Or Widescreen. It just depends. Because I haven't used Widescreen up until this point, but it's also a pretty valid move just to help you with special attackers, such as the king of Ubers himself, Mewtwo. Widescreen is the main reason you'd want to use it in Ubers, and it's really good there. Mewtwo has to set up again before he can even start attacking you. Though granted, with Mew having better recovery, it's always very likely for it to win. It just depends on when you get the special drops. And also crits, because your crits hit Mewtwo really hard. And Mewtwo could recover against one of them, but something like 2 in a row would just kill him. But those, I wouldn't say are very reliable. Either way though, here is the tier list. Maybe Starmie should be put in, could go either way, but I still don't know. But what do you think? Do you think ZAMAZENTA would be too much for OU? I personally think so. I think it's fine in Ubers. A little annoying in Ubers, but not the worst thing in the world. But I'd love to know what you guys think in the comments. Sorry for being gone for so long. I'm also sorry if my microphone sounds different. For some reason, my regular audio setup is just not working. It's just not recording. So, or technically it does pick up, but I need to like raise my voice, which I don't want to do. So the audio setup's a little bit different. But yeah, I thank you all for watching. I'm gonna try to make sure my quality is better in the future. But until next time, this is Groundback, and I look forward to hearing from you.